So how do elites prove that they are worthy kings, that they are great rulers? Well, first of all, you smite your enemies. Then you make sure the people have got enough to eat and they're happy. So that's the justice of Ra. The next thing on the list is to build for the gods. So he picked up an old project at Karnak, which was started by Amenhotep III, which was that hypostyle hall. Many kings had a crack at this to finish off building the hypostyle hall, but Seti was pretty confident that that was going to happen. Unfortunately, the project was finished off by his son Ramesses II. He built a magnificent mortuary temple on the west bank of Waset, modern day Luxor, and it's amazing. It's built in stone, so no mud brick rubbish for Seti I. Most probably it was finished by Ramesses II. It was called the Temple of Millions of Years, and it celebrated the Feast of the Valley, which happened in July. Now, the origin of the Feast of the Valley is in the 12th dynasty, the Middle Kingdom, when Amun of Karnak leaves Karnak and journeys over to the West Bank to meet all of the ancestors. Originally, it was Neb-Hepet, Ra's funeral monument, but as they were built, you had Montu, Hotep III and IV, they built theirs as well. This bark with Amun would visit all the other ancestors as well. By the time you get to the 18th dynasty, Amun is now the king of the gods, Amun-Ra. He's got his consort who is Mut and his son Khunsu. And the three of them leave Karnak and they cross the West Bank and they visit the ancestors' tomb. So one of the things that Seti had in mind was the bark visiting his mortuary temple. What a great honour that would be. So you have all of these wonderful inscriptions on the walls of the mortuary temple. The threesome, by modern archaeologists, that's Amun-Ra, Mut and Khonsu, are called the Theban Triad, but that's what modern archaeologists call them. I don't like using that name, simply because Thebes is the name for Waset, that the name was given by the Greeks, and Luxor is the modern day place name today. So I don't see them as a Theban triad, I see them as the Waset triad. If you have a look up at the ceiling here, you can see Seti's name with the Shimu, and that's what the French called the cartouches. Cartouche means cartridge. When the French came in 1798 and they saw these names, they called them cartouches because they were the same shape as the cartridges that they put into their rifles. The Egyptians called them Shimus, and it represents the sun's journey around the universe and back to Egypt. And that's the responsibility of every king of Egypt, not just to rule north, south, east and west, but to rule everything on behalf of the gods. Wow, that's a terrible responsibility. If you look at the entrance, it's magnificent with those closed bud papyrus columns. Absolutely amazing. It was there, it was built to impress. So as you approached, that great magnificent facade there greeted you. Remember, this is a place where pilgrims are going to come after the king is dead. They're going to ask the king's spirit for favours. His spirit's going to cross from the Valley of the Kings over the mountain with the going forth by day spell to receive his offerings, his spiritual rejuvenation in this temple by the mortuary cult, which he will install before he dies. And if you have a look at the beautiful bas-reliefs, they were all once painted just like this papyrus column that you see inside. The smoke damage that you see in different parts of this temple was because they were occupied during the Christian era. When all the temples were closed, they became living spaces for destitute Egyptians. So if the mortuary temple of Seti I blows your mind away, and it blows my mind away every time I go there, nobody goes and visits that mortuary temple. It's never on the list of the West Bank activities. The one place that you need to go and see is the temple he built at Abydos. So his temple at Abydos was intended for Osiris. Every king of Egypt built some kind of centaur or small shrine to Osiris at Abydos. Because remember, Osiris is there sitting in judgment, and you cannot pass through the Duat, which is above Abydos at this time, unless you pay homage to him. So in the lifetime of an Egyptian, they would have to go to Abydos to make a pilgrimage just once and make an offering to Osiris. And in the Western Valley, there is a field of buried jars with offerings, just simple jars. They cost a fortune for a normal ancient Egyptian, a farmer, a herdsman, but it had to be buried at Abydos. And then Osiris would listen to your confession. Have you been good to your wife? Did you honour your family? Did you look after the animals? Did you serve the king? Did you pay homage to the gods? These were the questions in the confession. In Christianity, there are 10 commandments. In the ancient Egyptian, there could be 15, sometimes 18 commandments, which you had to adhere to during your living life. Now the temple, let's have a look at it. Wow, just blows your mind away, isn't it? This isn't the simple shrine or centaur. This is a major temple, probably on the same, probably bigger than most other deity temples apart from Karnak itself. Amazing, all built in stone. Okay, so this was the dedication to Osiris, but also paid homage to all the major deities of Egypt as well. So you've got Horus in there, Isis and Seth, etc. Ptah, you know, they're all there. Ra-Harakti, they're all there. The Osirian, which is behind the main temple, and the Book of Gates, which is in the underground passage, that was finished by his grandson Menreptah. Not even Ramesses II finished that, and he finished this temple on behalf of his father. Look at it, it's massive. Seti was only around for 11 or 15 years. There's no way this was completed in his lifetime. The task was left to his devoted son Ramesses II to finish this off. Now look at the history of previous kings, how they behaved. Dad's dead, tools down on his project, start mine. That's not the attitude Ramesses II had with his father Seti I. He finished off these projects. The hypostyle hall, this major temple for Seti I. The mortuary temple on the West Bank was probably finished by Ramesses II. If you look at this hallway at Abydos, this is where the king's list is. So remember, every king tried to associate themselves with Narmer, and to do that they had a list with their name and all the preceding kings going all the way back to Narmer. Who was missing? Akhenaten was missing. Semenkarkar was missing. Tutankhaten was missing. So the Amano period was not included in this list. Interesting. The temple is about the personal relationship with Seti and the gods. Look how they clasp hands. So you've got Horus, Osiris, Ptah, all there. Isis. And some of them have got the original paint, because what we look at today is a shadow of what they were like in antiquity. These were brightly painted places. They were attractions. You're trying to attract pilgrims to visit your mortuary temple. So going to be brightly coloured. For an everyday Egyptian who lived by the Nile, had a simple life, they came to these places and they probably thought to themselves, this is Disneyland. Wow, look at this lot. These were magical places where gods dwelled, and inside they positioned holes up in the ceiling to emit light to shine down onto statues of these different deities in these different shrines. So remember, there's not just Osiris' shrine here, there's one to Seth and Montu and Ra-Harakti and Isis and Ptah. It goes on and on and on. At the entrance there is a Neo-bearing statue of Seti in this shrine. And what a Neo-bearing statue is that it's making offerings in the absence of that person. So it's a magical device you're looking at. This is going to make offerings in the absence of Seti. So maybe he was off on campaign when he laid the foundation deposits for this temple. Maybe he was down at Elephantine in June when Khnum fashioned the Nile god Hapi to bring the flood, and it's the king's responsibility to release it into the River Nile to create the new flood. Then the king had to journey up to Waset for the Feast of the Valley in July, and then he had to stay there in August for the Feast of Opet. So that's just 3 months in 1 year where the king is solely devoted to the gods. Plus you'd have to visit Memphis, you'd have to visit Abydos as well. Avaris, which was the old capital of Hyksos, is now a major capital city for control of the buffer zone which they had in Canaan. So these were important places which kings of Egypt had to visit every year. You can see pictures of Seti raising the Djed pillar. So remember the Hebsed festival, when you raise the Djed pillar. So what the Djed pillar represents is stability. So you raise it from Geb, from the earth, upright. So it's upright and level. You've got stability throughout the land. Wow. It's just something magical about these people when you stop and think about it. Here you have Seti with Wawepit stroke Anubis. So the original jackal god for Abydos was Wawepit. And then when Osiris came on and usurped that office of the guardian of the Duat and the sacred places of the dead, while Wepit was sort of sidelined. By the time he gets to the New Kingdom, he's been absorbed into an Anubis, Wawepit Anubis cult. Anubis who sits upon his mountain. Both are jackal gods. Just like Osiris was absorbed into, or Soka, which was Lower Egypt, the god of the dead for Lower Egypt, was absorbed into Osiris, Soka Osiris. So everyone was reorganized during this new kingdom, especially after the Amarna period. It was important to give stability and join things up, get things right. That's what they were trying to do, bring order throughout Egypt. On the death of Seti I, he was succeeded by his son and heir and crown prince Ramesses II. And what a future Ramesses II was going to have. And that's going to be in the next video. Thank you for viewing this video. The intention is to go to Egypt and to make video tours which can be downloaded onto a phone. which you can use if you visit Egypt. To do so, we need funding for this project. On the next card are details. You can make a small donation of £1. It's gratefully accepted. Okay, thanks for your time. Take care. See you soon. Bye for now.